We are back, and that is the summit in Singapore. President Trump surprised the media by saying about 40 minutes ago that there would be a signing. They were going for a signing. We're not sure of what. There are two pens set up in that room, two chairs. Obviously, that's where the signing will take place. We are waiting for that door to open. We are joined now by Mike Murphy, a Republican strategist who has advised both Mitt Romney's and Senator John McCain's presidential campaigns. Also with us, Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com. And Mike, I can think of a lot of Republicans, including every Republican who was in that room with the North Koreans tonight, who would be criticizing any Democratic president, who would be having this meeting on this day under these conditions.
Yeah, I tweeted earlier tonight that heads would be exploding. I mean, we have had a bipartisan policy for a long time with the North Koreans not to give them what they want, which is a bilateral summit with an American president without major concessions. Instead, we gave them everything they want, and now we'll probably get a statement of bromide saying lunch was delicious. And, you know, I hate to be a cynic, but my guess is the media will call this some kind of big win because the tone of the thing will be friendly, and they'll say that we've gone from the brink of war in the Korean Peninsula, which wasn't true, to some new halcyon era of peace. But, you know, talk is cheap, particularly in geopolitics, and we'll see what happens here. I think this thing was more about politics, where the president wanted the pageantry of a summit for his bad polling numbers at home, and Kim wants to show the regime that he can get the sanctions lightened up and get legitimacy. So far, the art of the deal here is by Kim Jong-Un.
Jason Johnson, your reaction to what we've seen tonight?
You've got two pathological liars with very few opportunities to determine if anything gets accomplished. You can't trust anything out of Kim Jong-un. I mean, you know, they have state-sponsored media. We don't know what's actually been discussed. We can very seldom trust anything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. So, you know, my only hope going forward is this. There are two different things that could happen here. Hopefully, if denuclearization occurs, I think that's highly unlikely. That would be an amazing accomplishment by the president, or some move towards cessation of hostilities with North and South Korea. That was accomplished. That will be a great accomplishment. But I don't see any reason to believe why any of those things will actually occur. We have a president who studied on crib notes and a piece of toilet paper before he was flying out there, saying he didn't really need to know anything about geopolitics before discussing with Kim Jong-un. And Un has already gotten what he wants. I mean, he looks like he's at the same level of a president of the United States. So it's all kind of disappointing pageantry at this particular point. Whatever it is they're going to sign, I suspect it's just something that says, hey, we had a good conversation, we'll chat again later. But actual progress for the people of South Korea, for Koreans in general, or Americans, I think that's still going to be lacking.
Mike Murphy, Kim Jong-un actually is at the same level as the president of the United States right now, and has been for the last couple of hours, with the president of the United States saying to him very plaintively that it is an honor, simply an honor, to be in the same room with him.
Yeah, that's unbelievable rhetoric from an American president. They've got to be doing cartwheels inside the North Korean suite. I guess, you know, Kim must have to move to Canada and get democratically elected to get the ire of this president. But it's, you know, it's a bizarro land situation. Now, I kind of agree with the professor. If the North Koreans had decided to put us on some path to peace and normalization, it'll be a big accomplishment. But they've got a, you know, 30, 40-year history of the same strategy, which is act up and get money to stop acting up for a while. And this reminds me very much of the deal that Clinton tried in the 90s that didn't work either. So, you know, what the geopolitical gain is here, I'm having real trouble seeing, and we're sure giving up a lot of American overall principles about dealing with a thug regime here for, so far, absolutely no gain.
And Jason Johnson, it seems the North-South tension has been greatly diminished by President Moon of South Korea in his own one-on-one dealings with Kim Jong-un.
Right, because they recognize that an end to hostilities is beneficial for the entire peninsula. You know, and again, if the president's role was to engage in like, hey, I want to help bring you guys together, I want to say that whatever support you may lose from China, if you work out a deal with South Korea, will be there to sort of fill in the gaps. I mean, if that was his motivation, it would be great. But there's no reason to believe that our president is thinking that way or thinking that strategically. And also this, and I think this is a really big and sort of important part of what's happening here. Donald Trump probably understands Kim Jong-un better than he does Trudeau. better than he does Merkel, because he understands what it's like to have aspirations for being powerful when, in fact, you have no respect unless you're oppressing the masses. So Donald Trump understands this man very well. He might be in a unique position to get some concessions, but I don't necessarily think that's his strategy. I think he just wants to talk to someone else that may actually understand his plight, as opposed to do something that will be beneficial to people all throughout the region and the world.
I want to bring back into our discussion former Ambassador Christopher Hill, former ambassador to South Korea. And I want to get, Mr. Ambassador, I want to get your reaction to something that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said earlier today. Let's listen to this.
I'm not going to get into any of the details of the discussions that we've had to date. I can only say this. We're prepared to take what will be security assurances that are different, unique, than have been provided, that America has been willing to provide previously. We think this is both necessary and appropriate.
Security assurances that are different, unique than have been provided, that America has been willing to provide previously. Ambassador Hill, what does that mean to you?
It strikes me, I hope I'm wrong, but it strikes me that there may be some idea that we will change our security position in South Korea. So it worries me. Now, what we've offered them in the past is we've given assurances we will not attack or invade them. We will not use nuclear or conventional weapons against them. We're prepared to establish relations with them, and we're prepared to have a peace treaty with them. Beyond that, we have not been prepared to scale down exercises or in any way reduce the number of U.S. forces there. The North Koreans talked to me about that, and I consistently told them that my only regret about U.S. forces is we didn't have enough of them there in the spring of 1950, and that the U.S. forces we have there are not a threat to North Korea unless North Korea tries to invade South Korea again. So I'm not really sure what Secretary Pompeo is saying. I appreciate the need to kind of be careful about what you say publicly, but at some point, you know, we're a democracy and we have a right to know a little about what our government is doing with a government like North Korea, and certainly the South Koreans and the others need to know. Pompeo will be going to those countries. The Japanese in particular are probably very concerned that we may be cutting deals with longer-range missiles and not cutting deals with missiles that could actually affect Japan. So there's going to have to be a lot of discussion with these partners and allies. And I just got back from China Sunday night, and I can tell you the Chinese are very interested and, frankly, very concerned by this kind of sort of winging it diplomacy that we're seeing.
And Ambassador Hill, the president seems to think that economic development is something that Kim wants desperately, and he's actually talked about making him rich and making North Korea rich. First of all, would that be possible? Secondly, how much is Kim concerned with that?
I think Kim has a notion that he would like his country to become a sort of modern, beautiful place. He's certainly gotten a load of Singapore in the last 24 hours, but I think it's going to be a lot tougher to make North Korea rich than for North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons. Obviously, this goes to the heart of the whole system there, and there are no indications whatsoever that apart from sort of 1970s style Russian or Soviet-type reforms, that they are prepared to go much further at this time. That is a big step when you open up an economy, you start letting people travel, things like that. I don't think they're quite ready for anything like the China model. So I think expectations really have to be kept in check with that sort of thing.
As long as that door is still closed, we are going to try to squeeze in another break here. If that door opens while we are in the break, we will come right back.